Oh, we've got a broken cable. I do. I just plugged it back in. I understand the clock. Got it plugged in. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. I understand. This is cool. This is really good. It's just like UX problems, like just making sure that it's accessible. That you don't have too much text in one go, and you don't have like prompts to do two different things at once and stuff like that. But the concept is really cool. That's such a good monster. Yeah, sorry if the stream quality is still bad. I need to probably need to connect my router with a cable rather than using Wi-Fi at the moment. Such a good monster. That was horrifying. Very, very good. But yeah, like that one, one socket. I love the fact that the whole concept of your game is in the title. I really like that. It's once you sort of get it, you get it. I think yeah, the issues here are UX problems, and you have two flavors of UX problems. One is just maybe making people read a bit too much in one go, and that's just a really and the only way you get it is the only way you fix it is by looking at the script, how many times you can whittle it down. And then the second type of UX problem is that kind of issue of you've got spacebar to continue the dialogue, and then you've got a click prompt for something happening at the same time. And those things really can't be happening at the same time, at least not until people understand the game. Um, but that was really cool. I love that at a kind of conceptual level. The art style is really cool. It was scary as hell. And it kind of felt good to do once I sort of knew what was happening. Thinking of that this reminds me of. So, I'm getting Alan Wake from this, and I'm also getting what was this? Was it Suda41 that did the kind of Twin Peaks type game that I can't remember the name of? Um, that I'm now a fake gamer because I can't remember the name of. Deadly Premonition is what I'm thinking of. It's kind of giving that sort of vibe. Take your headphones and get into Vanish Fall's deepest dark. Evil ways are waiting for you. Screen resolution. My name is Joey Lynn, guys. This is how it all began. Welcome, everyone, to Devil's Night. This time, you get inside the Special Agent Joe Drax skin and investigate the missing of your best friend and colleague, Robert Swan. Um, it says join our descent. Let's get the game capture up again. There's the like very high res textures kind of thing. Makes me think of like Sega arcade games from the early 2000s. Okay. We're straight into the kind of gory Satan stuff.
Mi nombre es Robert Swan y espero que este caso que investigo sea mi memento mori para todos vosotros. No sé si los que me han traído aquí me la han jugado o realmente me han dado la oportunidad de resolver toda esta mierda de una vez por todas.
I really think if you're gonna, you know, if you're in a Spanish-speaking country and you're making a game which is initially going to be voice acted in Spanish, I don't know why we're playing as Robert Swan. It feels strange and inauthentic to not just be playing a character that would be Spanish speaking, or in a national context where someone would be Spanish speaking. I'm making a phone call.
Joe, maldita sea, coge el puto teléfono. Escucha, creo que he encontrado una pista en el caso que me pasaste. Esta vez parece realmente buena, así que voy a ir esta noche a echar un vistazo. Estoy realmente jodido, hermano. No voy a ir a casa hoy. Circe y Demian no merecen verme así. Me voy a perder un rato en la zona ínfera hasta que anochezca. Después, iré a esa especie de almacén de trasteros que hay en el camino del hospital mental. Todo esto apesta, Joe, pero ya no soporto más pesadillas. Tenemos que averiguar qué ocurre con todas esas personas que han desaparecido, joder. Mañana te cuento si ese lugar esconde algo sucio.
There is something stinky and criminal.
Nos vemos.
Historically, asylums were pretty bad places for mentally ill people, and you know, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that to be a woke scold about it, but I do think it's an important thing to take on board if you make horror games using that setting, because if your horror game in an asylum gets really popular, then someone is going to get annoyed and upset about it further down the line at some point. This feels like it's very kind of schlock. It's really aiming for being like a over-the-top noir thing. We've already seen a room full of gore. There's been loads of swearing, loads of cursing, perhaps unnecessarily. And I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. But it does feel maybe like kind of a sort of younger person's idea of what's kind of edgy and adult, rather than, you know, necessarily something that's genuinely kind of sort of taking a kind of sophisticated approach to this stuff. Someone said the Spanish doesn't match the English subtitles. Yeah, I definitely heard a puta that was not reflected in the voiceover at some point. But I am intrigued. I like the aesthetic of what we've seen so far, and like I say, it's kind of giving me GameCube game vibes. It's giving me like, what if Shenmue was scary, kind of. Right. Instant medkits. I've got an I give up button. That's a very strange place to put the continue button. In the top right. Like in the top corners of a window are where you have the close or minimize button, not the go next. Joe got the necromancer skills to use voodoo time amulets yet, so during this demo you will not be able to save your progress. Okay. As well, that's a very sort of late 90s, early 2000s video game thing. I can do a weird slap. I walk by right clicking on a place and then I slap by left clicking. Do you want to call the police station? No. I'm not a coward. I don't need backup. Right. What was that camera change? Now, I know that a lot of modern games go too overboard with sort of highlighting interactable items and stuff, but I really, when I click with the left mouse here and Joe opens the fridge or picks something up off the floor, a lot of it, I can't be sure what is interactable or not. And I think if you're not gonna have highlights, then everything needs to be interactable, right? If your game is going to be a kind of simulated world, like, then you don't need to highlight stuff and say this is an object that is of relevance. But if you haven't got that, then like you need to have some way of identifying when I click left what the interaction is gonna be. Because I just walked over here and I was just like facing the table and I clicked and it was like, oh, do you want to make a phone call? I'm like, I know, I don't know what I'm doing. But this interface of right clicking somewhere to go there and then left clicking to do a random thing in relation to the object that's there, it's not great. It's kind of bringing me back to this thing that I keep kind of hammering on about that the controls of your game should be based on other games. Your game should control based on a game that you know already works in that genre. And I don't know. I've never played a game where the camera is above me, keeps moving to random angles, and I right click on things to move there and then left click and it kind of does random stuff with objects that are next to me or it might not. It doesn't feel rooted in any kind of design of any kind of game controls I've played in recent years. What about take that leather bag near the bed? Okay. That bag. Okay. See, that has a marker above it at least to tell me it's important. Really like the look of this game. Sounds really atmospheric. Art looks okay. Camera is doing horrible things. And I'm a big proponent of the old sort of resi games where you have the fixed cameras. I think that's great, but they generally obey the 180-degree rule, which is this like rule in cinematography where you basically can't move the camera more than 180 degrees at a time, or people get disoriented. So you can move it like, round. You can move the camera around like here, and then if you want to go all the way around, you have to make a couple of different camera movements to get the camera around there, because audiences can't handle the camera moving like more than that in one go. It really disorients your brain. And this camera is just resetting to weird angles all over the place without like any real reason. It's not great. It's disorienting, but not in a way that feels like a deliberate thing that's being done to make it scary. The top down also means I can't really see what's ahead of my character. And I can see situations where that could be a cool, scary thing, but at the moment it's just an annoying thing because all I'm trying to do is walk around a building. That looks important. It's shiny. See, the camera just jumping behind me at random points. Ugh. And designing character movement and designing camera movement is really hard. There is a reason why in AAA studios they have designers that just do that. They just refine how the character and the camera move. It's called 3C's design: camera, character, and controls. because it's a hard area of design, but these camera moves are just completely arbitrary. Like, it gets to a point where the camera needs to move because I can't see, and then it jumps to an angle I'm not expecting. And it's not a cool cinematic thing like Silent Hill, because we're not getting these kind of Alfred Hitchcock angles where, you know, the camera is in interesting places looking at the character from different, because it's all coming down on the same angle. So it just feels a bit haphazard, and it's not really achieving what those cameras in those old horror games achieved. Right, I'm pretty sure I need to get that screwdriver from there at some point, because otherwise it wouldn't have this interaction text. I've got some books on science and neuropsychology and some sticky tape. That sounds like a good weekend to me. Anything in there? Paul hates working on cameras. Yeah, it's horrible. I will probably never ever make a 3D game unless someone else can do the dev part of it, and I just do the do the fun bits, because cameras are awful. And even when I make 2D games, I tend to make single screen games partly for that reason. I see something shining at the bottom of that disgusting toilet. Are you going to put your hand in there and get it, buddy? Yes. Pick up the turd. You've got one turd. No, it says, I got the key of a storage room. Okay, cool. Our colleague, Pee-wee, is a brave guy, but he's a total pervert. Always lusting after dirty thoughts and sexual fantasies. Sometimes it's amusing, but the bastard's out of control. Haha! This week he's in charge of creating passwords for the boxes containing the access cards to the storage rooms. I went downstairs to inspect the area, but something's amiss. Pee-wee is nowhere to be found, and I hear a strange buzzing noise. I can't pinpoint the source. This is such... I'm just giving you a heads up. I've activated the security system, and the fences surrounding the laboratory are now closed. Imagine if one of those creatures escapes and reaches the upper level. To open the fences, remember to turn on the bulbs in the exact order. Failure to do so could cause short circuits and disastrous consequences. It sends chills down my spine just thinking about what those insane scientists are up to here. I've never been paid so much to guard an old decrepit place like this, but the things I hear about their experiments... Okay. There's a lot going on in this one message. We also don't trust Jacob or those bad biotches he's always with, but I need the money as much as you do. So we got two clues. We got the one about having to do lights in a particular order. And then we got the guy makes... There's a pervert who makes the passwords, which to me makes me think that one of the passwords is going to be like boobies or something. But again, we got that kind of edgy. It's being a bit edgy. Again, isn't it? It's being a bit edgy in terms of tone. And I don't know. Hey, I see. Is that a Jack Daniels? Can I have that? There's a pirate map there. See, again, there's just not a very easy way to tell what in this world is going to be interactable. And there's a lot of stuff thrown in for detail, and that means you just end up clicking on a lot of things that may or may not do anything. You sort of have to make a decision about how clearly you're going to telegraph what you can interact with or pick up. And I just don't think it's very clear here. That needs a magnetic card. I think the chat that's showing on the stream has not updated for some reason. Doesn't matter. Yeah, the one of my earliest game dev memories was playing around with the Warcraft 3 editor and trying to make a Resi game with it, and I made all of these areas that your character could walk into, and then like it would switch to a different camera. Um, but it sort of didn't work, and it was kind of for the same reason as here, is that those kind of fixed camera resi games where you were kind of doing tank controls to control the character, so you would be pushing forward, and if they walked into the space of a different character, they would still be walking in the same direction. Whereas here, you sort of click to move, and then the camera moves around, which means if you kind of click twice and you don't realize the camera's about to move, you end up misclicking a fair bit as well. A pair of 3.5-inch discs. I can read Clone Initiative written on them. But what the? This people is performing something so dark and criminal here. I can smell it, buddy. We need this computer password. Take a photo here, bro. Look at these names. James and Mary. I know these people. She's best friends with Robert's wife. How can I tell this shit to Cersei? I don't know. I don't know. Who's that? Neft Corp. After numerous failed attempts with subjects of diverse natures, I've concluded that the most stable species is a particular variant of the Lucanus service beetle, specifically in its adult female stage. Beetles, 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 blah blah blah, sciencey stuff, mental control, jibbity jabber, beetle, 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 so and so, J Meng. Okay. Someone done some science, you know. They wrote down words about it. I got some cloth, some scissors, some little blades. Now I just need the junk jet from Fallout, and I can just yeet all of this stuff at people. It feels, from a kind of just activity design perspective, it feels like I'm just clicking around, looking for things I can click. I went into a toilet. I picked up some mental pieces, because that's good police work. And another thing about the way that the camera is moving is I don't really feel like I understand the layout of this building, right? And I've been in this building for 5 or 10 minutes now. And because the camera is just jumping around at different angles, which I'm not controlling, right? I'm not rotating the camera myself. And to be honest, if I think of top-down games like RTSs and city builders, even if I rotate the camera myself, I tend to get lost. So I think a point and click from above, you either need to move the camera in a very specific way that kind of still generally faces north or something like that, or kind of rotates in a consistent way as you move into particular buildings, but it feels like it's hopping around quite randomly. And that means I still just don't really know how any of this space relates to any of the rest of the space. I'm exploring, but I'm not really getting what you should get out of exploring, which is a kind of general sense of starting to know your way around. I think there's something cool here. I like the art. I think the writing is cheesy. I want to explore this some more because I see some promise. But I think the decisions about the way that you move the character and the camera is just not doing it for me here. And it's like, yeah, I just feel physically lost, and like I don't know where I've been, I don't know where I haven't been. Oh dear. So I think we will have like I've got my fourth game on the list. Is not really a horror game. It's a horror themed action game, but I think that will be a nice palate cleanser after that one because I think that one was quite promising, but it was let down by some stuff that just felt meh. Right, this one is a controller based game because it is a sort of I don't want to give it a genre title because I haven't played it yet, but this is like a top-down action game that has some horror theming. So we are looking at Bloodmoon now. I can just get it to run. I don't know if any of you have ever run streams, but by the end of any of these, I have so many extra layers open on OBS than I ever start with. Just get into a total mess. There we go. Look at that. Let's whack the sound up. So yeah, not really in the same genre as some of the other games we've looked at tonight because I don't think this is necessarily designed to be scary. We're getting kind of hack and slash. I really like this sort of 3D models rendered down into 2D kind of thing. It tickles a particular part of my nostalgia brain, which makes me happy. I've got an objective in the top left. Knock on the farmhouse door. Stay in the light if you want to live. Okay. Eli had the priest bless it. The darkness, it's hungry. What do you mean? This is like a fake dialogue choice. These kind of both mean the same thing. I'm sorry, my husband told me not to let anyone in. Look, I've got a big sword. You should let me in. That is a really sluggish attack animation, but that might be a good thing. You know, sometimes having a character that is a bit clunky is part of the gameplay because you have to time stuff. Uh-oh, uh-oh. So we're getting a sort of Diablo-y, maybe Survivors game, but I have a very, you know, I've been obsessively studying Survivors games for the last 2 weeks now, and I think I might do I think I might buy like the Steam pack of similar games and do like a big run through of like what they all do differently from each other, but. I'm having to time my swings in this, which already feels like too much work if that's what this is going for. Want a scimitar? It says there's 9 monsters remaining. That didn't feel great. You know, I died because a variable went to 0. There wasn't a sense of the character dying, you know? Um, that was not great. And now I have to knock on the door again because it's taken me back to. I'm just gonna see what the message I received about this game says because it's gonna tell us about, you know, how far along it is and stuff like that. So, just give me a sec. Bloodmoon, and the other this game is called Bloodmoon, right? That is not going to be a good one for like search engine optimization because Bloodmoon, I think, was one of the like Morrowind expansions or something. So if people type in Bloodmoon video game, you're gonna get drowned out by all of the references to that older game. Um, yeah, Paul, good luck working on your game. While you've still got time, do it, do it, do it. Um, so yeah, they said, my name is Richard. I'm an indie game developer currently working on my first game. It's a 2.5D dark medieval horror roguelike where players must survive relentless waves of monster threat. If you have the time to play the demo, I'd be thrilled to hear your thoughts on how I could improve the core gameplay, especially in terms of satisfying combat and player progression. Okay. Well, for a start, don't make me talk to this grandma in the house every time I restart, because it's not fun. I think my first gut feeling is that the killing the rats and killing the ghouls or the zombies, they feel like their health is too close together. Like I want to splat those rats in one, right? Because look at my dude. My dude is not a peasant. He is a knight. He should be able to kill a rat in one. It's like the ghouls take 2 or 3 hits. The rats take 2 hits. And I can't really respond to the situation with anything but just turning whatever's closest to me and whacking it, because there isn't an easy kind of differentiation between these two types of characters, right? If I knew that a rat took 1 hit and a zombie took 3, then that might influence how I play, because I might run away from the zombie, try and focus on taking the rats out so that they've got less attacks in general, and then whittle the zombie down. But there's not really much of a perceivable difference between the different characters that are attacking me. Okay, my health went up. That's cool. Where's my money? Down the bottom right. But I didn't get anything. So my health, I got healed. It said I did a level up, but I can't get anything. Yeah, I don't know where these assets have come from, if they're from like an art pack or something, but I do really like the style of it. It's that kind of challenging thing, though, when you kind of go down this route of using slightly better animations and everything, which, arguably this is compared to Vampire Survivors. It does then create an expectation that everything is going to be of that quality. I would say this is pretty decent in terms of the way that all of the animations and sounds and stuff are implemented. But from a gameplay perspective, I just want to... If you're hitting me with 2 types of enemies, I want to be able to discern what is different about them. And I can't, which makes me feel like I'm not really making any judgments apart from run away if my health is low. I can't run fast enough to get away from them either. So I sort of end up in a situation there where I don't really know what I could have done there to not die. I'll give it a couple more tries though. I would whack a shadow or an outline on most of this medieval. I think this medieval font is probably not great for stuff that you need to read quickly, like, item names and stuff. It looks nice. Quite hard to read when you're doing other stuff. I'm gonna be coming up to the end of the stream in the next sort of 15 minutes or so. So if you have any random questions that you think I might be able to help you with, then do pop them in, and I will try and answer them before the end. See, there's just a situation there where I can't actively heal and I can't get away. So there's nothing I can do there. You need to give me something to counteract that. And I need to not have to knock on the farmhouse door every time. Let me in! I'm a knight! I'm important! Uh-oh, I think I've broken it. I've broken it this time. Let me in! Lightning? Paralyze? Flame tongue? Look at all of these moves that I don't have. I'm going to restart that because I broke it. Right. Loading that one back up because I want to give that one a fair crack of the whip because it's pretty cool. Come on, Bloodmoon, be good. So when I paused and went to controls, there's a big list of moves. There's a dash, there's a teleport, there's an attack. There are other moves I'm going to be able to unlock. But you can see how quickly I'm dying. I'm not getting to the point where I can unlock anything. If your game has stuff to unlock in, and that is supposed to be a thing that is cool, makes the player feel good, then you need to balance the beginning of your game so that getting to that first unlock is the priority and, you know, not killing the player. If it's too easy to die before you get that unlock, then the player never learns that the game has rewards in it in the first place, right? So that time my gold went up because the gold dropped on the floor and then I immediately picked it up. So make sure there's enough time for the player to see that they're getting the treasures. You know, drop the treasures on the floor, make them not pick up a ball for a second so that the player knows when they got them. I heard it, I heard the sound effect, but seeing the gold and then seeing it disappear would be better. Again, there's no way to dodge, there's no way to block. You know, I don't have that dash from the control menu. I don't have any way of mitigating the damage that's coming in. So at the moment, this is kind of fluke as to whether I survive. I mean, it's an interesting one to look at as an action game, but yeah, I don't feel like I've got any control over preserving my health. Although, did I get regen that time? If I walk away from them, do I get regen? You know, if you take Diablo as an example, or as a counter example, in Diablo you can nearly always successfully just run away and roll away from enemies. I want this game to do well because I like this art style and I like the vibes of it. I'm a lots of that this particular kind of style of art just kind of does something for me, but there needs to be more to it than just whacking stuff. And at the moment, there's no way to mitigate damage. There's no way to roll out of the way. When I run away, then I can't move faster than the enemies, so running away is not a viable thing. Ah, well, okay, Bloodmoon said that the light heals you, right? Yeah, that needs to be more obvious that it's happening. So, um, Yeah, think about ways you can telegraph that. It could be that the light sources actually send something towards you that goes bing, bing, bing and heals you. That would make it really clear. If everything that had a light could shoot out little, firefly things that healed you, then it would be much clearer what was going on. Because you've told us that, and I know that you've definitely told me that this is a game about avoiding the darkness and seeing the light and all that kind of stuff. But the way it's actually happening moment to moment in the game mechanics is not clear. So yeah, it's cool. I like it, and I just kind of think there aren't enough things for the player to sort of process and react to at the moment because it's just whack 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 whack, and I can't. There's not a discernible difference between whether I choose to whack a zombie or whack a rat. I would make the difference between their health much bigger, and just kind of try and make it so that in the moment to moment, if I'm faced with hitting a zombie or hitting a rat, there's a reason for me to pick each one. It could be that rats are really easy to, but it doesn't ever drop a gold, whereas the humanoid enemies are harder and they do drop gold. That kind of thing. Like if you make the enemies very distinct, then the moment to moment choices actually start to matter to the player rather than just being running away or whacking stuff. But yeah, I think this is cool. I think it's definitely the start of something cool. And one of the other situations that comes up in a lot in Vampire Survivors that I guess is kind of what I'm getting at here with differentiating the enemies is that there are a lot of times in Vampire Survivors where you have two types of enemies on the field, and one of them is really tough but slow, and the other one is maybe a bit faster but you can one shot it. You get like these green ghost things, and that they're just way at the level you're at. They take so many hits, so you just kind of run away from them. But then in between them, you've got these one hit guys running, and you kind of want to take them out because you want to pick up their treasure. But then they kind of got all of these slower, heavier ones around. So yeah, basically with any kind of horde mode game, if you're attacking the player with different types of enemies at the same time, if it's very easy for the player to learn that that's the soft enemy and that's the hard enemy, then they have loads of like interesting moment to moment split second decisions to make rather than just this enemy has 60 health and this enemy has 50 health. No, make them really different from each other. And you can start off with that as being like rats and zombies. Like what are the like two big differences between these two things, and then just follow that principle as you add more enemies, right? So when you add a minotaur or whatever it is, that can be like like the super fast, uh super fast, more health, whatever. But at the same time, you add another monster that is like very, very easy to one shot, and they kind of show up at the same time, and it kind of continues to create that dynamic of the player isn't just facing lots of enemies that just have 10% difference between their move speed and their health. It's like I can see that enemy is tough and that enemy is squidgy, so I'm going to run away from the tough one and try and get treasure out of the squidgy one so that I can kind of level up quicker and stuff. Um, that's the dynamic that tends to work well in these kind of arcadey hack and slash games. But I think this is cool. Where did you get Is this kind of an art style you're developing yourself, or did you get these from like an asset pack? Because it's very consistent. It's kind of giving me like Legacy of Kain, first Legacy of Kain game vibes. Yeah, yeah, cool. But even then, like with the monster attack patterns, it's like it's not Dark Souls, right? I'm not rolling and them and stuff in terms of their health and like how easy they are to just whittle down is probably the bigger, more important thing than like how they attack you. Yeah, I really like the art style. I have a real soft spot for this kind of style of where it's 3D and then it's converted into a sprite. I think the games that were done in this style, like the Infinity Engine games, like the first Baldur's Gate games, have aged better than 3D games that came a few years after. So I just need to get my browser up without without opening up my emails again, because that's not good. Let me just 1 second. Yeah, I can't find examples of what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm looking for Neverwinter Nights. But yeah, I just tend to think that that art style that was around right at the end of the 90s has aged a lot better. I think that's kind of true 3D. There might be like 3D objects that are then rendered into 2D sprites, but it kind of all looks quite painterly and like it's hand drawn. And I just think this aged really, really well. Like if you play Baldur's Gate Advanced Edition on an iPad or something, it still looks really good. Whereas if you look at the D&D games that came like 5 years after that, they look older. They look older because 2D ages faster than 3D ages faster than 2D. If you do 2D right, it kind of looks timeless. And I don't know, that's kind of what this is reminding me of. It looks very, very 1997. But I think that's good. I really like that style. It's making me want to play the first Legacy of Kain game, which had, I don't know if anyone played that. Anyone ever played Blood Omen Legacy of Kain? It's super old. I don't even know if you can get it emulated now. Um, but it had like, I think most people generally kind of tend to remember Legacy of Kain 2 better, but that was like a 3D platformer, and this was like a top-down adventure game. And it had some of the best vampire stuff ever in it, where you could sort of suck someone's blood from across the room and it would fly across the room, and if you ran out of the way of it, it all went up the wall. It was really sort of grimdark and dumb. But I loved it, and it had all of these puzzles based on like possessing people or turning into different forms and stuff. Yeah, I think they still have a version of it on now, and it's just like like characters with the golden eye heads and stuff like that. So yeah, very funny. So yeah, I really liked that last one. I like there's a couple of things there that I really like. I just need I need more than just stay in the light and whack stuff. And I think it's on the way, but it was just a little bit too hard to work out how the healing was happening there. This is my cyberpunk medical background because uh, I can't really make my actual house, which I quite like. Um, and yeah, the first two games particularly, I really really liked the atmosphere and the storytelling in Habilis, and I think the one socket was a very very neat idea, but it struggles with something that always happens, which is the more of your game is kind of unique and unusual, then the harder it is for people to understand, right? Which sounds obvious, and it kind of is if it's not your game. But when it is your game, you have to kind of keep reminding yourself, okay, people don't know how to control this thing. People haven't played a game like this before, so I'm gonna have to not necessarily explain it by telling them over and over again, because that's what it was trying to do. It was the voice on the phone was like telling us over and over again what I needed to do. And Dev in the chat kept saying, "You've been told this. The phone call told you it." But it's like, to learn something in a game, you need to be told it in a short, sweet way, and then you need to do it so that it actually goes into your brain. Because often you're kind of you're hankering to do stuff, right? You're like, "Oh, let me do stuff." So character is telling you how things work, telling you what to do, and that's why, although it's annoying and difficult to implement, that's why sort of tutorials in AAA games or tutorials in very polished indie games, they go, one instruction, do it. Another instruction, do it. They don't they chunk the information up as small as possible and give you things to do so that you are constantly doing stuff and getting feedback instead of 12 lines of dialogue saying we take the schleem and we rub it on the plumbus, and then it's time for the plumbus to go in the defibrillator, because you can't it's very hard for people to take in an instructional text in a long twice, make them do it 3 times before you do anything kind of punishing with them or anything that might confuse them. So definitely not stuff that's specific to horror games, even though these were kind of all horror or horror themed games. This is kind of just general game design stuff. When you're onboarding people onto your game, you need to break it down into the smallest steps possible, even if that seems really boring to you. That's one of the reasons why you do tutorials right at the end, and usually in response to watching people play as much the first play as much as possible. The first place I'd have to sit off to an angle so I could kind of see the game over their shoulder and see what they were doing, and kind of just be able to watch them without interfering. And that's a really good way to observe a playtest, because the playtester's not looking up at you all the time and feeling because when you're playing a game, right, and you get stuck, you feel frustrated with yourself and you feel stupid. And if you've got someone sitting across from you, like you're in a job interview, taking notes and going, writing things down, that playtester is going to think, what are they writing down? Are they writing down, playtester is a dumbass? No, and of course they're not. They're writing down, playtester seems to get stuck with step 3 of tutorial or whatever. But if you're sat so they can't see you and you can see what they're doing, then that's the perfect playtest set up for that kind of accessibility stuff, because you don't want them to feel like they're in a social situation where they need to prove something to you or do anything in relation to you. You just want to see them play as if no one's in the room, and without some kind of expensive setup with cameras and stuff, you probably can't do that. So the next best thing is just setting up the way that you sit so that you can observe without pressuring them in some weird way. Anyway, that's my ramble. I will always ramble about playtesting because it's important and people don't do it enough, and also I don't get to do it that often, so it's something I'm kind of, people keep trolling me and telling me I look like Harry Dubois, which is not the worst person to look like, but I think we should do a Disco Elysium Christmas stream, and I'm gonna explain why it's a Christmas game. I'm not sure what the answer to that is yet. But we'll work it out as we go along. Right, cool. Thanks for coming, folks. I'm going to shut this down now. Have a good weekend, whatever you're doing, and don't work on your game all weekend.